Welcome to Flip Nerd Live, discussions with and training from America's very best real estate investing professionals. We meet live twice a month to discuss what's working now and get your questions answered. We broadcast live inside of a private online community, which you can join for free by visiting flipnerd.com/live. Let's start today's show. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Really excited to have my good friend Lauren here today. We talked ahead of time and we're really pumped up for today. Excited to have you join us. Lauren, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to talk about the virtual stuff because as we kind of talked a little bit about ahead of time, I'm the exact opposite of virtual. I've pretty much just invested in one market, but of course, I think everybody like me that primarily invests in one market is always interested in the virtual model of going off to far off lands and doing what we do in the same market. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about like kind of why virtual makes sense, when it doesn't make sense, how to choose your market, different exit strategies, like all those things. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Awesome. Well, Mike, it is an honor to be on your live show. Super stoked. A little bit about me. So I live in Orange County, California. I started investing in real estate about 10 years ago. So I was 25 years old. So if that gives you a little idea of how old I am now, I was working corporate real estate. Actually, I was working in like commercial real estate for a company called Irvine Company. And I had my first daughter, Reese. At this time, Reese is 1 year old. And in that 1 year, man, you really learn how hard it is to be a working parent.
Yeah.
You know, before you have kids, no big deal. I'm going to be like a CEO of a company. Of course, like my kid's just going to be in daycare. It's not a big deal. Like, and then you have a kid and you're like, oh my gosh, I see her 1 hour a day. This is terrible. Like I can't raise her this way. She's going to be like on the streets.
Yeah.
So I, after, a year of that, I was so desperate to get out of my corporate job. I would have done anything just to have any kind of work-life balance. I was really looking for something I could do where I could work from home and just have Reese home with me.
Yeah.
On top of that, I had a baby on the way. I just found out I was pregnant. So like now the clock is really ticking. I was also only making like 50 grand a year. So after paying 2 kids childcare in California, like it was like, why am I even working at this point?
There's nothing left.
Yeah. So I had about, 9 months to figure it out. And I learned about house flipping from my brother. He started flipping houses locally. And this was in California, in Southern California. And he had some good luck. I think he maybe had 3 or 4 projects under his belt at that time. And he said, you should do what I do. And I was like, what do you do? I don't even know what flipping is. Like, I never watched any of those shows, on HGTV.
Yeah.
So yeah, back then, the education, there was like no e-courses. There was no online e-courses. It was like you would get these CDs and you would just have to listen to the CDs in your car. And that was like your education course. So he came with like a big book, like a binder full of CDs. And I listened to them in a week and I just learned all about how to flip houses.
What can you say what course that was or who the?
Yes, it was a local guy named Mike Cantu. He actually, I had him on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. So I brought back my original mentor just to he's so awesome. He's still doing deals, still.
Nice.
So I got some education. I dove into the education in a week. I was like, all right, let's do this. I've got 9 months to figure it out because the baby's due in 9 months. And like, I need to be able to quit my job and not come back from maternity leave.
And now a word from our sponsors. Investor Fuel is America's #1 mastermind community for professional real estate investors, where hundreds of the top investors from across the country come together to build stronger businesses and stronger lives. Our community is about giving and transformation. If you're ready to take your business to a whole new level, please learn more and schedule a call with us today at investorfuel.com. Investor Machine is the nation's #1 done-for-you lead source for professional real estate investors, serving many of the highest performing and most respected real estate investors in America. We use a unique approach to data that is truly unlike anything else on the market, then execute your direct mail and skip tracing campaigns for you. Markets are filling up quickly. If you'd like to learn more about our world-class service, please visit investormachine.com. Find out why over 7,000 real estate investors and agents have chosen Carrot to build their website to attract and convert more online motivated seller leads. Visit flipnerd.com/carrot to learn more about how Carrot can help you.
So I had this goal to to have 1 year's salary saved up, which wasn't really that much. It was $50,000. And if I had 1 year's salary, I can quit my job. So I went to work, and yeah, it took me like 4 months to get my first contract, to get a seller to say yes to me. And then it took me 8 months to actually like make my first dollar in, house flipping, which
Wow.
we made quite a bit.
Well, that was in Southern California, right?
That was in Southern California.
Yeah.
So this is post-recession. I got started like the last day of the recession, and the next day the market started going up.
Okay.
So when I bought my first flip property, it was a condo in Laguna Niguel. It went up like 10% just in the hold time.
Oh, wow.
So if you were in the business back then, it was like 2012, like it was all of a sudden, it was like we were so economically depressed for so many years. And then all of a sudden, like real estate was cool again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that was my first deal. That's where it all started.
And then, so obviously at some point you were in your market, then you went virtual. So why virtual, and how long did you grind it out in your market before you kind of changed models?
Yeah. Okay. So I was grinding for a while. I started in 2012. For the first 4 years, I was in my backyard. But what happened, so I live in a really high priced area. I live in Orange County, California. The average house here is $1 million. So really expensive. And for those who are listening, right, you guys know, like, our whole livelihood as investors is convincing sellers to give us a property at a discount so we can, make some money on it when we flip it, right?
Yep.
Well, when you live in an area where the demand is so high, it's very difficult to convince a seller to take a discount on their home. So year after year, what I noticed was my marketing spend to get that one deal kept creeping up. It used to be like $2,500 would get me that one deal, and I would net like $30,000 to $50,000 on that flip once it was done, right? Those were the days. It went from that to like $10,000 to get that one deal. And what's really scary is, what if that one deal was the one time you were sick and you didn't pick up the phone on time?
Yeah.
And you missed that lead right there, right?
Yeah.
So 4 years into doing deals in my backyard, I was flipping primarily. I was wholesaling a little bit. I mainly wholesaled what I just didn't want or didn't have the stomach for.
Yeah.
It got to where my marketing budget, I'm going, oh my gosh, I've spent $10,000. I don't have a deal lined up. And I'm getting really stressed out. And there was a very, kind of crucial moment in 2016 where I made that decision. Like, I've got to go virtual, because I'm seeing people in these other states where prices are not as expensive, and they don't have the deal flow issues I'm having. They're like looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, the only difference is our average house price. Really, that's the only thing I could come up with, was that just they're in cheaper areas.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple. I've got some friends of guys that are in my Investor Fuel Mastermind that are even worse than you. They're in the Bay Area, which is like the most difficult market. And they deals are few and far between, but they might make like $400,000 on an assignment or something like that. But then they're like 2 months might go by where they don't do a deal at all, and so it's like this is already an up and down business, right? But in some of those high price markets, the roller coaster, the ups and downs are even bigger, right?
Yeah. And I talk about this. I have a really good speech. You got to ask me at one point, is like, do you decide to like go virtual or not? And I call it elephant hunting versus squirrel hunting. And you just described elephant hunting.
Yeah.
Like that, like you're waiting for a while, and you're really patient, and you finally get that one,
Well, tell us, you just said you have a speech. I don't know how long the speech is, but why don't you go ahead and tell us? Because now the next question is, when does it make sense to go virtual? When does it not? So maybe you could cover it in your speech.
Okay, I can. So to me, it's all about your psychology and your lifestyle. So let's explain first elephant hunting versus squirrel hunting. So I call elephant hunting when you are in a higher priced area, but your deals are bigger, but your deal flow is less consistent. So you're maybe closing one deal a quarter, but that one deal, makes $60,000 or more. I know a lot of people, they love that. They love those big checks. They love it so much, right? But now let's talk about squirrel hunting. Squirrel hunting is, lower price point areas. So your checks are not as huge. They're not as sexy. It's maybe a $10,000 wholesale fee, even a $5,000 wholesale fee. Maybe when you're flipping, it's $25,000 when you're done, but it's more frequent. You're getting like one check a week, or at least once a month you close a flip. Like there's some consistency. So there's two ways you can go. Now it's, okay, what kind of person are you and what is your situation in life? For me, I was in elephant hunting territory for a while. California turned into elephant hunting. Now it's like extinct animal hunting. So for me, I'm a mom. I have 2 children. I have bills to pay. I have a mortgage. Elephant hunting was keeping me up at night. It was really scary to go 3 months and not get paid and not know when your next deal is coming. But squirrel hunting, even though the checks were smaller, it was nice that they were coming in regularly. And if you lost one deal, you weren't suicidal. Like we're elephant hunting, like you lose one deal. I mean, you're devastated because you're like, that's how I was paying myself this month or this quarter, right?
Yeah.
So I noticed elephant hunters are typically like, maybe you don't have kids, you're low overhead in your lifestyle. You can go move back in with your parents if it really gets bad. You've got a roommate, you're cool, like elephant hunt all day long, right? But the people that I noticed really struggle with that is like the parents, we've got mouths to feed, we've got, a roof to keep over our head, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
and the people that I know that have done really well in markets, which is not a bad, what I'm about to say is not a bad thing. It just takes up a lot of time, is they really spend a lot of time on the relationship building side of the business, like to where they're powered networkers trying to find deals outside of just paid advertising. They're really big into the relationships, which I think is a great thing. I'm big on relationships too, but it takes a lot of time to do that, right? And if you don't have that time, then maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So talk about when you transition to a virtual model, and obviously you coach a lot of people as well. Like when you see people do that, like what are some of the common mistakes, maybe some mistakes you've made? Because it's not the same, like it's a different, well, I'm going to say it's a different animal. You just described it as
animal references.
But when you go off to a far off land, there are other challenges that come along. Like some things are easier, but some things are harder. So talk about some of the common mistakes that people make.
Yeah, so lots of mistakes. Okay, we make a lot of mistakes when we go virtual. I made them all. And you're right. I've got a ton of students that I've seen them all make the same mistakes I did. So they're very, very common. Where do I even start? I would say the most crucial mistake, the most game-changing advice that changed the whole thing for me, was not getting a partner. So when you first go into a virtual territory, everyone thinks that they can figure it out with PropStream and like, oh, well, I have access to all the software and I can see this and I can find buyers and I know, like, I can just pull a PropStream list and find a list of buyers and this and that. Like I'm telling you, every area is so different. It's not just, it's like figuring out the geographic territory, right? Like let me give you examples, different areas to figure out, right? Like Oklahoma City. I first went to Oklahoma City and I was making offers like a house flipper. Okay. I was like, okay, I'm a house flipper. So like, these are how I'm comping out houses and I'm making all these offers. And the sellers are like, no, you're too low. What are you doing? No. And I'm like, why? Like in 6 months, I got like one deal in 6 months when I went virtual for the first time, like in Oklahoma City. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. Someone said, just get a JV partner, get a joint venture partner, and he's going to tell you what you're doing wrong. And I did. And within like a day of being on the phone, I just showed him like, well, here's this lead and this is what I offered. And what would you have offered? And he's like, no. Like these are landlord deals. You're looking for a landlord buyer. So like they pay way more than a house flipper. If you flip this house, you're offering 40,000. A landlord buyer would buy this for 86. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, that makes sense because the seller was saying someone offered 86. Oh my God. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I've been in this business for at that point 4 years. Like I wasn't, there's a lot you think like you would know, right? And I didn't know. I was like, oh wow, okay. There's areas that are developers markets, and the name of the game is like, development. So you need to be able to comp a home like a property out as if it's going to be, knocked down and built into 4 different units,
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that. It's also knowing the landscape, like the territory, areas like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a lot of the East Coast markets, Kansas City, Missouri. I hear that all the time. Like where your one side of the street's good, the next side is terrible.
Yeah.
And you only know that if you were a local.
I've heard a few people. I know you operated in Tulsa too. I know several people that have tried to go into Tulsa virtually, and they don't understand that there's like different parts of town, and they just get hammered like in some of the lower end areas because they overpaid.
Tulsa is a funny market. It's the $100,000 highway you're talking about, and they call it that. And so, yeah, and I didn't know either. Like I was in Tulsa and I didn't understand this highway. And if you're on one side of it, price point's this. If you're literally on the other side of it, it's that. Nobody wants it. So there's so many nuances to every single market that you think one market and you try it and it's like you'll be shocked at how totally wrong you are. So the best advice is just getting a partner to help you for like your first maybe 5 deals.
Yeah. And there's always, and I think COVID has maybe changed a lot of this, and some people have changed back. They were buying over the phone, and then now they're back to in person, or some folks have done really well with buying over the phone, but then they realize that the margins are quite a bit higher if you buy in person, which is a common thing that I've seen. But I think a lot of people don't, the question is always, can I invest virtually and just have a call center or a small team that's calling into 5 different markets, or do I need some boots on the ground that can go meet with people in those markets and be your eyes and ears? And so you're an advocate for having some eyes and ears on the ground, right?
Yeah. So another mistake I see people make is like they think they got the whole nation, open to them, and they do this exact thing. And yeah, I mean, you might get lucky and get one contract here or there, but in my experience, what ends up happening in that model is you spend so much money in marketing, you don't close enough deals. You just don't get lucky enough. Really, for me, it's one territory at a time. You really focus, you really like grow roots in that territory, and you're going to just keep getting better at that territory and better at it. Maybe you start out as a wholesaler, if that's your journey, you're starting out as a wholesaler. And then the next thing you know is you're going to start buying rentals and you're going to do burrs and you're going to start flipping houses there. Like that's how I teach it. And that's what I've noticed people do better with.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you choose a market? Like, how do you decide to go into a specific market when the whole world is your playground? Like you could go anywhere. Like, how do you choose a market?
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely get some analysis paralysis there. I recommend a few things. Number one is like start with somewhere you might know, when in doubt, working your backyard is always going to be easier. I'm not going to even try to say like, no, you should always go virtual. Like, no, like your backyard, your backyard. You're like, oh yeah, Mrs. Seller, that's so funny. My best friend lived on that street. Like those are rapport building, conversations you won't have if like you've never been there before.
Right.
So like if when in doubt, work your backyard first, especially when you're getting started. Virtual comes out of necessity in my experience. It's come from a place of necessity. Maybe you had a job transfer, you move around a lot for your work. Maybe you're like me and your area just got way too high priced and it's just not feasible anymore. Maybe you're in a rural area, there's like houses don't have much value,
Sure, yeah.
Then you start looking at like a virtual model, right? And then when you're thinking of going virtual, start with somewhere, did you go to college somewhere? Do you have family somewhere? It'd really be nice to like be able to call your in-laws, right? And say, hey, can you go drive by that property? Something's going on, So start with areas of familiarity first. Second, Now, this is more, again, kind of the elephant hunt or squirrel hunt. It's my preference to be in a market where there's more exit strategies available to me. I like areas where you can profitably hold a rental, so something where like the 1% rent to price ratio works, 1% or better, which is around like that $300,000 purchase price or below.
Okay.
I like those kind of areas because like if you get stuck with a property, you can keep it as a rental.
Sure.
You also have more buyers available to you. You've got rental buyers, you've got flippers. Like there's a little bit more of a mix going on there. So I like that. I also think, again, like, why would I go to California, or why would I leave California to go to another California and pick like a high price market? I would just do it in my backyard. So those are the things I recommend. But then the big one, right, is find the proof of concept. So you mentioned Tulsa. I got a Tulsa story for you. And this is probably why you've noticed people struggle. So Tulsa is like fine now because everybody is like, Oklahoma City got so saturated that people moved to Tulsa eventually. But about 4 years ago, I started in Tulsa, and I swear, like, nobody was there. No wholesalers at all. I was only wholesaling at the time. And end buyers, I talk to these end buyers, these house flippers and landlords, and they say, yeah, we see wholesalers every once in a while, but nobody really lasts. It's weird. Like they kind of come and they go. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great. I'm going to have no competitions. This is awesome, right? Well, then what I realized is like, there's a reason there's no wholesalers. It's very difficult. There's no proof of concept for wholesaling in Tulsa at that time. It's totally a different world now. But at that time, the proof of concept was not there. And it was very challenging. Like we would get properties under contract that we thought would be good deals. And like the buyers were real picky because they thought we were weird. They were like, what are you doing? Like they didn't understand wholesaling. It was really behind in the times kind of.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is you want to make sure that whatever you want to do, are you trying to house flip? Are you trying to buy rentals? Are you trying to do the BRRRR concept? Are you trying to wholesale? Make sure there's the proof of concept there. Like you can easily find like a handful of people that are like successfully doing what you want to do.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I think a lot of people have a natural tendency to say, I want to find something that nobody knows about, right? But maybe there's a reason nobody's doing it because it doesn't work there, right? And I'll give you, this is kind of a weird example. So not too far from my office here, there's a Chick-fil-A. Everybody loves Chick-fil-A. There's a line around the corner. Like whenever you go there at lunchtime, it's like the cars are all the way down the street. It's crazy, right? And I just drove by there the other day. It's not normally the way that I go. And they're putting a Cane's, which I don't know if you know about Cane's.
Yeah.
Literally right next door. I'm like, how does
proof
that make
of concept?
Sense? But the concept is proven. There's traffic there, and there's going to be a ton of people that don't want to wait in that long line at Chick-fil-A and go right next door.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of times when you're out and about, you'll see grocery stores right across the street from each other. A new gas station's coming in right next door to the other one. It's because there's traffic there. They know it works, and they're just part of the opportunity is just to steal market share from the person right next door to you. Even.
Yeah. Same applies.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about exit strategies. So, from my perspective, I've rehabbed hundreds of houses right here in Dallas. And even though I hate to go look at houses, I always could. And I always honestly did go check on what's going on. When you're virtual, you can't check on rehabs as easily. No. Of course, there's a lot of technology that helps with that today, but talk about like how to choose exit strategies. I mean, you don't always have to wholesale when you're virtual, but some things are easier than others. So talk about not just picking a market, but picking the exit strategies you should focus on.
Yeah. So, it would help if I just kind of go through the exit strategies, give you pros and cons, right? So wholesaling, right? I call it the gateway drug of real estate investing. Okay. Wholesaling to me is a really good, it's a new, I would say new person strategy, right? It's a great newbie strategy, especially when you're virtual, there's not a ton of risk. I think that wholesaling is the easiest to pull off virtually, but you still need a joint venture partner to really speed that learning curve up. Like, don't try to be a hero and do it yourself. Like, just get a JV partner and like learn about the market from that person, right? Yeah. Wholesaling, easy. Freshman entry level kind of thing you can do. The next thing that is, I would say, next easiest virtually is just owning rentals. once you get, the property stabilized, like you don't really have to do much, but just like collect your check. And
As long
especially
as
if
you
you
have
have
a good manager, right?
as long as you have a good manager, like that's pretty like easy to do and pull off as long as there's not a lot of rehab. Like when you acquire it, like, easier to pull off virtually. I personally, like, my dad is the OG of virtual investing because he had a rental portfolio in Ohio and we lived in California, like growing up. So my virtual roots run deep. So, the next thing would be like house flipping. Now, house flipping is like a varsity virtual strategy. If you are just dying to be a wholesaler or a house flipper, and maybe like it's not working in your market, you live like in New York or Miami or like Bay Area, me here, Seattle, like all the expensive areas, like, well, but you still want to have this dream of like being a house flipper. I'm going to tell you, it's varsity. It's very difficult. You really want to like have a lot of boots on ground in that area to have your back. I recommend go at it in stages. Stage 1 would be partner with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So like partner with a local house flipper. Hey, I got this deal. I'll even help with the funding if, make sure they got some skin in the game too. And like, let's be partners 50-50. And like they manage the rehab because they're physically there. They're using their contractor that they know and love and trust, and like partner for a while until you have replaced that person in the boots on ground aspect. Like you got their contractor, you've got like property project management like there for you somewhere. So like that would be like stage 1. Then you could be crazy like me and just go straight to stage 2, which like I thought I could figure it out because I've been wholesaling in my market for a while, so I had contacts. Stage 2 would be like we have a project manager that is there. Okay, I'm going to give you guys the horror stories of house flipping virtually. It can go really well in some cases. There's some areas that like just general contractors are terrible, and it's like an epidemic of it. So I'm flipping homes in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's known for like not having the best contractors. And all of us flippers in that area are like crying. Like our contractors are terrible. Okay. So I've had project managers that are like babysitting. We could not find a contractor, like a general contractor to manage the whole job doesn't exist. So we have to sub everything out ourselves.
Oh, wow.
We have officially gotten to the place because we have enough projects to support it. We are shipping a crew, our own construction crew there. So we have in-house construction in Pittsburgh now. Varsity, like I can only pull that off because my boyfriend he's got a lot of construction background and he's setting that up for me. So like that's a very rare situation that I was able to kind of milk that relationship. But that was really tough. I'll be honest, if I was a new person trying to like flip in Pittsburgh and I just did it and bought that first home I did, I would have just had to sell it to another investor. I would have been like, okay, never mind. I can't find a GC. Forget it. Like somebody take this. But I was lucky that I've got the boyfriend with the construction experience and he's been like project managing it from a distance. And that now we're shipping people over there to finish these other
you do what you got to do. You got to be resourceful, right, in this business. So
right, and I wasn't about to like give these deals up. I was like, no, there's too much money in them. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
well, awesome. So, folks, if you're listening right now live, and if you're not listening live as well, just chat in the comments here and let us know like where you're joining from and if you've done any virtual investing yourself. And feel free to ask any questions. We can hit them up while we're here with Lauren for just a little bit longer. If you're listening after the fact, just know that we do these shows a couple times a month. The live version, we have over 1,500 podcasts on FlipNerd.com over the past, actually coming up on our 9-year anniversary of the podcast, if you can believe that. But if you go to FlipNerd.com/group, you can opt into our live version of the show here. We'll notify you when we're doing our next episode. We'll send you a copy of the show, how to get access to it after we edit it here in the next couple of days. So let us know where you're joining from and if you've done any virtual investing or you have any questions for Lauren while we're here. So Lauren, tell us some other things, some other things that kind of differentiate somebody being successful from getting into virtual investing. And maybe touch on this. Do you think, a lot of people have asked in the past, I actually do a lot of large multifamily syndications now, and there's always this discussion of, Do you have to have done single family before you do multifamily? Which you don't have to, but I think the mindset of being an investor helps. Do you have to have ever invested locally in a market before you get into virtual investing, or can you go right into virtual investing?
I think you could go right in.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think you could go right in for sure. Especially like I said, get a partner at first.
Yeah. You
Mhm.
honestly, I think even if you start in your own market, like it's a good idea to work
Mhm.
with somebody, whether it's a
Yeah,
mentor or a coach or a partner or something. This business is a lot harder than what most people think, right? It's
right.
not as glamorous as what people are led to believe. It's just a lot of work ultimately.
Mhm. Yeah, 1000%. Get a
Yeah.
partner anyway when
Yeah.
you're starting out, for
It's
sure.
a perfect business to
Yeah,
be a partner with. My wife was my partner. I mean, she handled all the stuff that I didn't want to do.
right.
Fortunately for me, but so awesome. Yeah, somebody here saying that they think they bought some deals from me in Tulsa.
Yeah,
So
you
cool.
might have. For a
Yeah.
while, we were like the only ones wholesaling deals, and then now it's like a totally different.
Yeah. I know
But
a couple people in Tulsa that have done a lot of volume, but they primarily were landlords. They would just,
mhm.
do 100 houses a year and keep them all, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good area. It's a great area for rentals.
Yeah. So, what are some other things that kind of separate somebody that gets into virtual wholesaling that is successful
Mhm.
and not? And then what's the
Yeah.
difference in those two people?
Yeah, okay. I don't know if this is in general virtual or not. You could probably, I know you've had a lot of students like go through your programs, Mike, and I have too. I don't know if it's virtual specific. You might argue and say, no, that's just in general as this business, right?
Sure.
Is when you're going virtual, you're going to have a lot of bottlenecks. So, like, bottlenecks, for example, is I couldn't find a contractor in Pittsburgh. What do I do? Do I give up and just sell the home and like lick my wounds and like, I don't know, get into another business or whatever? Like,
Right.
or do I go, no, we're going to hire a project manager. I can't find a general contractor. I'm going to build my general contractor business. Like,
Mm.
I'm going to have a project manager and we're going to find the best subs. I'm going to call every single buyer on my buyers list and ask them for a recommendation for roofers and HVAC guys and this. That's what we did. So, like, every time you hit a bottleneck, like, it's not like, oh, go and like cry and give up or whatever. It's okay. What are all the things that I can do to like break through the bottleneck?
Yeah.
And I notice it's not so virtual. You're going to get a lot of bottlenecks. You're going to get more because you can't just like go in your car. Like you can't just get in your car and go solve the problem. Like you just
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
So you're going to run into way more bottlenecks. So you have to get really resourceful and kind of crafty. Like you've got to start thinking out of the box, like of how, you can kind of replace yourself there.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
that's probably all real estate investors. You just have to be
Yeah.
resilient, right? It's probably all entrepreneurs. Like you're gonna hit hard times. You got to figure it out. I
Yeah.
bet one thing that happens with virtual investors is they decide to go into a market and they try it for a while and things get hard and they're like, they think the market is a problem. Well, oh, I
Mhm.
better just change to a different market and only to
Mhm.
have the same problems there because it's
Yeah.
more of like process problems. That's probably pretty common, right?
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, they hit a couple bottlenecks. They say this doesn't work. Sometimes
Yeah.
they just choose the wrong market.
Yeah.
What's really cute? It's like the California person like me who's like, yeah, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to like, some expensive Florida market. Like, I don't know. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Like, but like another market that's like saturated in its own way. Like maybe it's not a million, but it's 500,000 now, whereas 2 years ago it was 200,000 average purchase
Did you do
price.
that?
Oh, I did it with Nashville.
Oh, okay.
So Nashville was my first virtual territory, and all the thought that went into that one, because that was my first, was just like, oh, this sounds like a cool place to visit. And that was it. Like, and I just, and I saw that people were building homes. So the first thing I did it virtually ever, it was build new homes. So I was building houses in Nashville because that's like what you did in Nashville.
Yeah.
And it was like I got in right at a time where like this was super hot, but like it wasn't as competitive. But within like a year, like I could not compete with the local guys, like, because
Mm.
there was so much development. Like, you got to imagine we were all fighting over, these homes, and like say a seller had a lot that we could build 2 homes on or 4 homes on. All the seller had to do, so I'd make them an offer and they'd go, okay, thanks, let me think about it. And they'd hang up and they'd walk outside their house and there would be 4 investors right there because they're building houses like right in front of them. And they would just walk over and be like, what will you offer me for my lot? And the local guy always could offer more because they have, one right there, So I was getting outbid quite a bit. And I was like, okay, this is feeling like California. Like, why did I even leave California if, yeah.
So one question is, how do you know how deep to go into a market? Like, let's say you go into a virtual market and you're operating in a few markets. How do you know whether you should go deeper in that market or bolt on a second market?
Okay. I used to be, we change, right?
Because when you're virtual, I think sometimes you become like a virtual market junkie. You're just like, yeah, I'm going to go into 20 markets. Yeah, it's easy because you're just like, I'll just start over somewhere else and somewhere else, right?
Right. I love that you just said virtual market junkie. I'm going to totally use that. I'm copying that one. Yeah, I went through that phase. That learned from my mistakes. Okay. I was a virtual market junkie. So I went, Nashville, and then I was like, oh my gosh, then I did Oklahoma City. I was like, oh, once I figured Oklahoma City, I was like, this is easy. Okay. Like, this is so much easier than Southern California. Like, sellers are so much nicer in here. And I thought, okay, well then I'll just do Tulsa. And that was when it was like, wait, hold on. This is not as easy as Oklahoma City. Like, I became a junkie, but I refused to give up on Tulsa. So then, in hindsight, it's like, I probably should have just stayed in Oklahoma City, honestly, just gone deeper. It started flipping or something. I should have gone deeper, to be honest.
Yeah.
I am a little bit more under, after life experience. I do really subscribe to just one market and make that market your home. And if you feel like, okay, I'm ready for another market, let's wait a couple years, you've really successfully proven the model, and then maybe you pick a second market to invest in or something.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely more under the just pick one market and that's it.
That's a good idea. Yeah. You get a problem when you say just one more, and next time you say just one more, right?
Yes.
then you're a junkie.
Right. Right. I know.
We got one question here asking about marketing channels. So I don't know if that's different for virtual wholesaling other than if you're in your own market. But you want to share any insights? I run a lead generation agency for hundreds of investors, so I'm obviously very biased. But anything you want to share on maybe something that works better? I guess one of the cool things about being in a virtual market is you can kind of try stuff, and if it doesn't work, it's easier to get in and out, right? But anything you want to share on marketing channels?
Honestly, all of them work virtually, and I think it's more market specific. It doesn't matter whether you're virtual or not. If there's a lot of people in your market that just happen to be on the text message campaign trend, texting isn't going to do very well in that market because you've got too many people, and it really only takes maybe 10 people that are texting the same absentee owner list to saturate out, a marketing method. So I've done I think I've done every type of marketing you can do as far as real estate investing goes, aside from I never did radio ads. But some work better than others. I had TV ads running for the longest time, and they were terrible in Oklahoma City, but they killed it in Pittsburgh. Direct mail, it works in some areas. It doesn't work in others because there's too many people doing direct mail in others. So it really is market specific. You kind of have to try some things. But you know what I'm noticing now, Mike, and I don't know if you are, because of where we are in the market, I'm actually getting a lot of deals from wholesalers. And I think MLS is going to come back.
Dispo has gotten harder, right? Just generally speaking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense because a lot of wholesalers are still finding ways to buy, and they're, if they were selling to hedge funds or other people, institutional buyers that have pulled back, then it's starting to some of those are starting to shake out and maybe come back to you.
That's exactly, that's what I'm noticing. So actually I'm kind of focused on working in partnerships, working with other people. If there's a wholesaler in my area and they, want an easy deal, I'm buying, off of them. Realtor relationships, things like that. I'm noticing that's coming back, which is very exciting to me because that's all free.
Why don't you tell us what markets you're in case somebody's listening right now and they want to reach out to you? What markets are you in where you love to see some wholesale deals?
Yeah, Oklahoma City. So I do a few things. In Pittsburgh, I'm flipping. Oklahoma City, we could flip in. Tulsa, where we've been still in Tulsa. We just started moving deals on the disposition side in Idaho, so in Boise. And I wouldn't mind picking, I've actually got a good partner out there. So I'd pick up deals in Boise, Idaho too. So if any of those like markets, you guys have contracts, we help other people move their contracts. We also are a buyer as well. So
awesome. Well, I know you share a lot of knowledge. You have, coaching and other things around virtual investing. If folks wanted to connect with you, learn more, where should they go?
Yeah, check me out. I think Instagram is where I'm most active. So go to This Mom Flips on Instagram. And my website, laurenhardyco.com's got like, some free stuff, free seller script and all that. So
it's check Lauren Hardy. What would you say? Lauren Hardy what?
laurenhardyco.com. You guys can check out the free seller script.
laurenhardy.com was not available. Somebody snaked it from you?
laurenhardy.com, believe it or not, was not. So I had to add a CO at the end. I know. So annoying, right?
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, any kind of final words of wisdom to share with folks that might be listening right now?
Oh my goodness. Final words of wisdom. I don't know. It's an interesting time in the marketplace right now. Yeah. And I've noticed people, I always heard that this would happen. I don't know if how long you've been in this business, Mike.
2008. So I started in a down cycle. So this is my time. This is honestly, I think this is the best time for real estate investors. You just have to get over the mental hang up.
Right. Okay. So I started in 2012. So I didn't get to be in it when it was like easy to buy.
Yeah.
Like easier to buy. I was always in it when it was always a seller's market. And I was just waiting for the day. Like, when is it ever going to be a buyer's market again? And I always heard that when it becomes a buyer's market, like when you're in this phase, you're going to see a purge. Like you're going to see a lot of people get out of the real estate business. And lately I have heard from so many people that are like, I'm over it. I'm burnt out. Like, I'm freaked out. I don't want to do this anymore. Why did I buy these properties so high?
That's the problem. This is the best. Now, when I started 2008, it was, and my wife and I, it was coincidence. Like we didn't plan that. It was just like, I lost my job. This is the time we're finally going to do this. It was just coincidence that we got in. It turned out to be the best time to get in. Even though when we were getting in, a lot of veteran people that become good friends of mine thought we were nuts. Like, this is the worst time. Why are you starting now? But the reality is we didn't have any baggage. We didn't have a bunch of inventory that we overpaid for. We didn't have bad habits yet. Our work ethic was stronger than ever because we were committed to making it work. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what happens during kind of what we call the shift here is there's this transition period from a seller's market to a buyer's market.
Mm-hmm.
And people that were kind of unprincipled or they got sloppy because values keep going up and it's covering up mistakes. Like they're kind of like so-called the tide is going out and we're seeing who still has a swimsuit on or not,
right? I know. It's really interesting. And I always heard, from original mentors who had been through several cycles, I was built in good principles. And in many ways, I was really like frustrated with myself because I saw these people just like killing it, like being way less risk adverse as I was and buying all these flip houses and stuff like that. And now I look and now when I see the fear in their eye right now, I'm like, I'm glad I wasn't them.
Yeah. And there's always, at the end of the day, it's social media makes it so hard to like compare yourself. And a lot of people get disgruntled. And I won't say any names at all, but I know somebody that is all over social media that does a ton of deals. And then I kind of found out recently, I was kind of doing, based off some information they shared of, you're doing a lot of deals, but your margins are so low that I was like, first off, that's not going to work in this new market. Like that just doesn't work. Right. And at the same time, it's like, you're not as cool as I thought you were because you're not really netted. You can't be netting anything off of those things. It just looks like you're doing a lot of volume, but at the end of the day, that's not success from my standpoint.
For sure. And I have this same thing. And I actually just want to say this, like, because I hope that in no time in this interview, I came off like I have it all figured out. Like I'm still learning and figuring it out. And, I was not, like I was a turtle as far as my success goes in this business. Like it's been 10 years, guys, like 10 years. And I would listen to these podcasts now I just don't listen to them. Like, But when I first got started, I remember like listening to these podcasts, and it would be like some guy and he's like, yeah, so like I quit my restaurant server job and I decided to flip houses. And like, within 6 months, I got my first 27 deals. And, I like, it's just crazy. Like we're on schedule to buy 100 by the end of the year and all this. And I'm like, what? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like I only did 3 deals this year,
Yeah.
But in the end, I think a lot of people are lying on social media. Number one.
Well, there's certainly an asterisk next to it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this has been a great business for me. I know it's been a great business for you. I think people need to stop worrying about what other people are doing. Like, there's people that you should follow and people that have great information, such as laurenhardyco.com and flipnerd.com. Like, you don't need to go anywhere else. Like, we've got a lot of good information. But there's a lot of people out there that will thump their chest and puff up a little bit when it comes to success. And sometimes you find out it's like, well, your margins are really thin, or it's like, you did a bunch of deals, but you've got like 5 partners in your office, and that's why you don't have any employees and you're doing 100 deals a year. And so it's like an individual doing 20 deals a year. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, okay, there's an asterisk next to it sometimes. Right?
I love that. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah, for sure. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. You're in your own. This is your own race.
That's right. That's right. Lauren, awesome. So we'll put links down below for Lauren on IG and her website there. Again, if you guys if you're not getting notified of our live shows here, you can go to flipnerd.com/group and kind of opt in to get access to this very same show right now, and then we'll notify you of each new ones that comes along. So Lauren, thanks so much for sharing some great info with us. We definitely appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks so much, Mike. It's been great. Thanks for watching, guys.
And everybody, thanks a ton for joining us. We'll see you on the next show. Again, if you go to flipnerd.com, you can access over 1,500 video podcasts from the past 9 years on pretty much anything you could possibly think of. I'm sure we talked about it between 1 and 50 times at least. We have so much content out there, but appreciate you all a bunch. If you're watching this on social media right now, maybe chat down below as to who else I should consider having on as a guest on this live show. I will tell you, I'm only bringing on people that I think are rock stars, people that I want to get to know better, or great friends of mine. And so we've had some amazing people on the show up till this point. We're going to keep them coming, but I'd love to know who else we should have on the show. So everybody, thanks for joining again. Lauren, thanks so much.
Bye.
Everybody, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me on today's Flip Nerd Live. To get access to our upcoming interviews with experts and get your questions answered and join our free online community, please visit flipnerd.com/live. Thanks again to our sponsors. Investor Fuel is America's #1 mastermind community for professional real estate investors, where hundreds of the top investors from across the country come together to build stronger businesses and stronger lives. Our community is about giving and transformation. If you're ready to take your business to a whole new level, please learn more and schedule a call with us today at investorfuel.com. Investor Machine is the nation's #1 done-for-you lead source for professional real estate investors, serving many of the highest performing and most respected real estate investors in America. We use a unique approach to data that is truly unlike anything else on the market, then execute your direct mail and skip tracing campaigns for you. Markets are filling up quickly. If you'd like to learn more about our world-class service, please visit investormachine.com. Find out why over 7,000 real estate investors and agents have chosen Carrot to build their website to attract and convert more online motivated seller leads. Visit flipnerd.com/carrot to learn more about how Carrot can help you. We look forward to seeing you on the next Flip Nerd Live Real Estate Investor Training. Please make sure to join our free community so you can join us live at flipnerd.com/live.